welcome to Future Media Concept sponsored DaVinci Resolve webinar. The version that I'm going to use is 18. It was just final released a few weeks ago. And you do know that you can download it if you go onto the Blackmagic website. There is a link, and the link is going to be in the support tab. So in the support tab, you can go and select a product. In this case, the download is going to be on the left side. And you'll notice that there is a DaVinci Resolve 18, which was released on July 20th. There's also DaVinci Resolve Studio. The Studio version is about $300, and you can buy it online or any way you decide. It gives you a couple of extra tools that you can see on some of my webinars in the past, but essentially this is the place where you would download it from if you are novice to it. If you do have DaVinci Resolve, this is something that you already know. And when we open up the application launches. It looks up all the things that are connected to it, and by default, it is always showing you a starting empty untitled project. This is how you start a show, a documentary, a feature, a promo, bumper, teaser, whatever you want to call it. My recommendation, and this is not necessarily the one that you will follow, but it is a recommendation. If you right-click on the untitled project, the project settings can be set up ahead of time before you open it up. And this is crucial because DaVinci Resolve, the same way as Avid, uses one project at one time. So you're not really able to have multiple projects like Premiere Pro running at the same time. In the Resolve family, you have to make up your mind from the get-go. What are you going to be working with? And it gives you choice of timeline resolutions. Basically, it's the project resolution. These resolutions are available all the way up to like 4K, 8K. And then you can decide, are you running at a specific frame rate? These are the frame rates. Anyways, I'm not starting a brand new project. I'm starting an existing project. So there's two different ways of going about it. So the premise is that you have a pre-existing project, and if you double click on it, it should show up. The other option is if you right click in the dark area and you want to import a project and you know where the project lives. In my case, I know where it lives in a folder, subfolder, and it has an extension which is clearly visible, DRP, DaVinci Resolve Project. That is signifying that is a project information. Therefore, if I click on that particular one and open it, it will import that project. Oh, I can change it so I can look at it. Ah, there we go. So now it tells me what it is. It's 1920 by 1080 running at 25 frames, and it was last opened on Friday, August 19, and it was created on August 5, and it tells you what is the name. So that's metadata that you may want to utilize. Now, if you're a novice to Resolve, you know that there are work areas. One is the media, where you bring in the footage, where you link the footage. The reason I'm saying bring and link, because in version 18, you can actually bring in proxy and you can actually transcode it. Generally, up till 18, Resolve linked only to media. That's why you had to have lots of RAM, because it liked to keep the camera original color, so it didn't want to do any alteration of it. Therefore, it was linking to it. Now, in the new version 18, you can actually create proxies or import it and make your own version of the original, let's call it camera speak. It is time consuming and also uses up space on the drive. Anyways, you can also use a simple cut. You can do the edit. And then Fusion is an animation tool. I'm going to skip on that, but I'm going to go into color because that's what most of the webinar is going to be about. And then you can do manipulation audio, which again, I'm going to skip because that's not what the focus of this webinar is. And we can also talk about the delivery. Anyways, in the edit, I have some timelines, and timelines are basically the story. Timeline is a sequence. Timeline is a bumper, teaser, promo, advertisement, rock video, pop video, hip hop video, whatever you want to call it. Obviously, there are different views. The view that I'm looking for is going to be either the alphanumeric view or the picture view. I like the numeric because I know exactly where I am. 1, 2, 3. I have pre-cut 4 sequences for you. Here's the cool thing about those sequences. If I don't have them in the timeline, let's click on the X them out. If I double click on one of them, it goes by definition into the timeline. And this is the first opening. This is a multi-camera show where we have music that the artist is lip syncing to. And I put the title up so you can see what is going on today. who am I, and what is the topic group that we're talking about. So I'm going to hit the space bar or the play button, and let's hear on your end if you can get something out of it. Can you hear music, or can you hear some kind of preparation? Anyways, the point is that in this scenario, I had chosen a number of angles of the show, and these are the angles of a show. So there is one angle. I have another angle, which is a close-up on the right side, another angle from the left side, close-up of it. So there is a slider, and there is the big jib, which is showing you that you're on location. Because I want to have it synchronized as a multi-camera setup, I set up a group and I cut together a sequence that looks like this. And we're going to talk about how to quickly cut a multi-camera. I have a webinar that deals with this specifically, but right now, instead of just doing the cutting, I will jump to the one that is already rough cut. So I show you this is the sequence that I cut the angles of the show, presuming that it is going to be synchronized and we have a multi-camera. The reason why I'm doing this setup is because in an environment that you are going to be dealing with, in this case, 5 camera angles, each camera angle may have a different color temperature, or each camera may have been a different camera. So if you have 5 cameras and they're all different cameras, might have different colors, how do you match it up? Because that's the biggest challenge at any given time, especially if you're dealing with color. So what my premise is that I am now going to show you what happens if you have multi-angles and each angle is different temperature. Like, for example, look at the color of the guitar on the second shot, the color warmth of the guitar. On the next shot after that, the color is kind of a little bit different. And then if you go back again, it's a little bit darker. And then you have to go further down. There we go. Darker, 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 darker. There we go. Is there a light one again? No, I don't have the light one. There we go. Here's the light one. My point is that I'm going to show you how you can make adjustments on a single clip. I'll show you how you can group clips and make the adjustment with one keystroke on all of those angles. And then I'll show you how you can add a layer that adjusts the color of the entire show. That is the premise of this webinar. That is what I'm going to show you. Anyway, so I have a setup where the multi-camera is going to be used. And if I switch over from the edit, I'm in color now. You will notice that each of those little bricks, each of those little thumbnails are labeled either a number of a shot, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and so on. They also tell you that they are a multi-camera clip. If you double click under one of them, it actually tells you what angle. So 1 is angle 1, 2 is angle 2, shot number 3 is angle 3, angle 4, 5, angle 2, angle 3, angle 4, angle 3, angle 1. So the point is that if I want to make sure that all the angle ones, because the premise and expectation is that they were lit a certain way, I don't have to individually do them. I don't have to have a setup and then copy paste to each of those angles. I can group them. But before we go there, may I just say hello to our new page, which was switched from edit to color. If the color page doesn't look like this on your computer, maybe because your setting of the resolution is different. The resolution should be 1920 1080. Then it shows all the materials, all the parts, all the elements. And if you want to refresh it, and it's something that I have seen a lot and I do it occasionally, in the workspace dropdown, you have a choice where you can the user interface reset to default, and it should give me all the elements that I need. In this case, I'm looking at the clips, the first frame of each of the clips. I am looking at the adjustment tools, the color wheels. I'm looking at the curves, and I'm looking for a keyframe option, or maybe I can use the tool that shows me waveforms or vector scopes or wherever I choose. So with that, let's go on to the shot one, which according to this one is first brick. There we go. Double click on it, is angle 1. So that is angle 1. You know that DaVinci Resolve works differently compared to Avid or Premiere. They usually work on a vertical environment, so the top adjusts whatever is below. In DaVinci, it still uses that principle, but it uses nodes. So each of those nodes can be connected, and the nodes that I'm going to be using are a very simple series of nodes. They would be serial, so they go in a series. And the keyboard shortcut to add a serial would be, if you right-click on the drop-down, you should be able to add a node. So add a serial node. The serial node means that whatever you have on 1 is going to be adjusted by the 2, and whatever the 2 output is, that's going to be the result. Therefore, if you activate the second node, and you can see it's highlighted by, some people call it orange. It's more reddish to me, but let's stick with the orange color because that is the DaVinci color. So you click on the second one, and I generally make adjustments based on using some kind of measurement. What kind of measurement? Well, the brightness and darkness is the more important one for me than the color. The color I can always adjust, but the brightness and darkness is important because for broadcasting, if I submit it for broadcasting, or if you submit it for broadcasting, you need to make sure that you're within range. And within range means that it's not too bright, not too dark, so it doesn't violate the broadcast expectation or the broadcast channel requirements. Using that premise, I have a tool that I like a lot. Bottom left-hand corner, I have a which automatically adjusts the brightness and darkness. But the question is, do I know what the brightness and darkness is? No idea. I'm just eyeballing it. What do I need to have? If you right-click inside the image that is the image that your player is parked on, you should be able to open up scopes. And the scopes default to 4 scopes. The scopes that I'm going to look for are going to be a set of scopes, and one of them is going to be called waveform. And the second one is going to be vector scope. The waveform analyzes the brightness and darkness amount of the frame that you're parked on. And it looks like that everything seems to be in the dark. And you see there's a number from 0 to 1023. 0 counts as a character, so it's actually 1024 gradations between dark and light. And that suggests that I'm looking at a 10-bit color. Okay. So how dark is it? How light is it? Well, it's kind of doesn't even go into the mid-range. So if I take off in the filtering, the coloring, I can see that, yeah, the image is kind of pretty much stopped at middle, and it's all dark. What about the vector scope? Vector scope shows you the amount of color on the frame that you're parked on, like a blob. And the blob gives you a number of options. The upper left and 11 o'clock is where the reds would be. The magentas would be around 2 o'clock. Around 3:30 would be the blues. The cyan would be around 5 o'clock. 7 o'clock would be the green, and yellow is around 9 o'clock. So it seems to me that I have a whole bunch of brownish because it's between 9 and 12, that quadrant, and maybe I have some blue, but for me, I don't see it clearly because it's kind of very hazy. So I have a choice to make it more dense graticule. So now if I do it, now I can see much better. And if I bring up that window slightly, you can see, yeah, the frame that I'm parked on is somewhere it's brownish, which is probably the guitar in the face, and it leans toward the brownish look. What about the brightness? The brightness is set up as 0. Proportionately stretchable, adjustable environment. Okay, you can adjust it. With that, let's just cut it down to the brightness and define that this is a dark shot. The dark shot to me is nothing wrong. That's the look of the show. But still, if I want to brighten it up, there are 3 different ways of doing that. As a DaVinci Resolve colorist, you will recognize it. There is a automatic setting, and the automatic setting says, okay, I'm going to push the brightness to the maximum and the minimum darkness, and that is automatic. You can turn it off and on and see what the result is. So based on what the computer thinks, it sets it up automatically. To me, that is not a bad one. It is okay, but sometimes it doesn't work well. So clear it out. The next step is you define what is the darkest element in the image, and you define what the brightest element. Therefore, in the color wheels, which is by definition called the adjustment, the color wheels, there is a crosshair on the dark area, and there's a crosshair on the white area. So if you activate the crosshair and you click on the darkest and say the darkest is going to be his jacket or his clothing, and the brightest is going to be the guitar body. So now I define what the bright and dark boundaries are going to be, and that's a different look altogether. And it looks like it pushed the blue a lot. How do I know it pushed the blue? Well, because if I look at the vector scope tells me that I'm leaning toward blue. If I want to see the density and the graticule, yes, I can see it. You can see that I'm in the blue sphere of colors, which would be the second quadrant between 3 to 6. So now that's the second one. The third one is really my favorite because it does give you more instant than anything else. And you can relate that to either Avid, Premiere, or Final Cut Pro. So if I grab the brightness curve, and the brightness curve is connected to the RGB, then I can say I'm going to adjust the brightness, not just of the dark and bright, but all the colors. I'm going to push the upper area slightly up, and the bottom is going to contrast it down. And this is known as the S curve. So if you want to see what that quality is, remember, we need to have that scope. The scope I'm gravitating toward, in this case, waveform, and it tells me, yeah, I have a whole bunch of bright reds, but the darks are kind of still dark. How do I change it? Well, I bring the darks up. There we go. Bring the darks up. So now it looks like it's washed out. Yeah, but, you know, do you want to have that? I don't know. What is that you're looking for? So sometimes you make adjustments, and it seems to me that I don't have enough information. There's a lot of dark information. So even if I brighten up the dark information, it's going to look like washed out. So you can play with that. And I'm not going to go into detail because that's not what my webinar is. My webinar is a fast pace, making adjustments to multiple angles at the same time, as opposed to individual time each of those angles. So I'm going to reset it, and I'm going to tell the computer something very significant. One, and another one, which is hold down Command or Control on the Windows. So it's two of these guys, one, angle one, angle one. I have two angle ones, and have one more angle one down the road, which is angle one. There we go. It's a third angle one occurrence in the timeline. Do I have additional ones? Yeah, I have one more. And if I scroll down, I think I have one more. There we go. So the reason why I'm doing this is because when I click on one of those that are selected, watch it, I can put them into a group. And this is going to be called group one or angle one. The reason why this is now helpful is I am parked on one of those angle one shots. Which one? I'm parked on the first one. Got you. And if I make an adjustment, the scenario allows me in the pre-group play clip to make adjustments to the brightness. And if I make one clip adjust to bright, 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 like so, look at all of them. All the ones are now bright. Double check it. You see that? All the ones are bright. Let's go crazy. Let's go saturate the hell out of them just to prove a point. So now these are all saturated. Clip one, one, one. You go scroll down. These are all saturated. If I want to have them desaturate them, make them black and white, bring the saturation down to 0. Hello, and they're all black and white. One angle, angle one, angle one, angle. This, for you guys, especially if you're doing multi-camera, is really, really a valuable tool. With that, let's make another group, which is going to be angle 2. How many angle 2s do I have? Let's pick the ones. Highlight one, Control. Does angle 2 come up again? Yeah, hold down Control. The second one. Is there any more? Yeah, let's move around. Angle 2, angle 2. Move around. Angle 2. And I have pretty much used up all the angle 2s. Now the angle 2s are going to be a group 2. That's the logic behind it. So if you right click on it and you say, hey, add a new group, angle 02. So now they are a different group because I want to have them different color. Like what? Push the red a little bit. Push the red. And you can see that all the angle 2s red are kind of really red. And if you take out the blue, doesn't respond. Oh, when you are in a group, you have to follow the protocol of the group. The group protocol requires that you deal with the brightness and darkness as a pre-clip. And you can see that the wireframe changed from orange to kind of a yellowish. And the pre-clip is going to make the adjustment of the brightness. So let's make it bright. So the older 2s are bright. And the post clip is where the color is. So in the post clip, I'm going to push the red. Let's see if I can make it sepia tone. There we go. And take away the blue. So now all the shots in angle 2 will be this nice sepia tone. Let's go a little bit wilder. There we go. Sepia tone, like deep sepia tone. And if I want to play it out on a story, Control S saves everything up to this point. Command S. Get out of the color tool. You're in color now. Show the entire timeline. And you have angle 1, okay, the black and white. Angle 2 is all the sepia tone. Okay, so that's angle 2 also. There we go. If I go from shot to shot, you can see which are the angle 2s. That's angle 1, it's angle 2, angle 2, angle 1, angle 1, angle 2, angle 1, angle 1. There we go. So I'll do one more because I need to just demonstrate the principle to the maximum. Let's get angle 3. Do I know what angle is what? I have no idea. Oh, by the way, do you notice that each of these numbers, 1 and 2 in this case, as well as 6 and 10, have a little rainbow color around it, suggesting there is a color adjustment on it. That's your tool. That's your giveaway that there is an adjustment on it. Okay, so double click under the name. It switches over. It tells you multi-camera angle 3. Select one, hold down control. I have 1, 3, another 3. So these are angle 3 that I selected. What I did earlier, guys, was a right click on the drop down and create into new group. And I call it angle 03. And I'm going to, again, follow the protocol of the group requirement. I'm going to do a pre flip. I'm going to make it like a really, really kind of balanced brightness and darkness contrast. Okay. And I'm going to saturate the colors to the maximum by post, which is the first is the brightness, the pre-clip, and the color is the post. In this case, I'm going to saturate it up to like, there we go, 99, and maybe even go back to the pre-group and have some adjustment on the darkness, bring up the darkness a bit. Do something very weird. Well, not because I like it, but I just want to show that there's a distinction between the look. So when this is all done, go back again and start playing it. If you look from shot to shot, angle 1, angle 2, angle 3. I didn't touch 4. I didn't touch again 5. There's angle 2, angle 3. You can see how saturated it is. Angle 1, angle 2, angle 2, angle 1, angle 3. And now you can see how I made adjustments to that. This is a simple tool, guys, that we use a lot. And if you like this, please, this is a cool way of making an adjustment to individual things. I would like to say that I'm going to have the entire show black and white or entire show certain thing. So instead of selecting each of the clips and making adjustments to them, I'm going to select all the clips. I'm going to get rid of the groups, which are, I believe, if I go in here, remove from a group, remove from the group, everybody's removed from the group, back to normal. And you notice that there is no rainbow color around the number of any of those clips, suggesting that they are default. So the producers above my pay grade want to have the entire show black and white. Here is one scenario that I like a lot. Do you accept that you are now looking at the timeline individual clips? Okay, even if you don't, that's what I got. I'm looking at. And each of these clips can be adjusted using, as I was suggesting earlier, adding a node, Alt-S, and I'm going to change the brightness of that shot, and I'm going to change in the brightness of the shot, and it's kind of brighter or darker, whatever. And then I'm going to add another node, Alt-S, Command-S on the Mac, and I'm going to make it a little bit colder by taking away the red and pushing the blue. So now I have a look. And that particular look is different than anything else. It looks like it's a cold studio. Even the guitar picture looks very kind of washed out. Play it on the full screen, go back to the first screen, Command F, Control F. Color, right? So it's a different show. Well, in my case, because I want to make adjustments not just to one clip, but the entire show, here is how the DaVinci solved that issue. So whatever I have on the one, I have two choices. One, I can turn off each of those adjustments. I can get rid of those nodes individually or in a group, or I can just tell the computer, please, that first clip, color drop down, and reset that entire thing to back to normal. So again, the key point is that these are individual clips in the story. My intention is I need to have the entire story made black and white. So here's the deal. In the clip drop down, there's a choice where you can actually pick things, but what happens if I change from clip view to a timeline view? What just happened? I lost a node. Yeah, because the nodes are per each clip. I don't have a node for the entire story. Therefore, I need to add a node, which in this case is add a node, which is going to be a corrector. And that corrector node is going to apply the filter. In this case, I'm going to make the entire show black and white because I connected it. And you can see that it's not a red wireframe, it's a blue wireframe. I'm going to make it all black and white, thus bringing the saturation down. Everything is black and white. Do you notice that in the timeline, the colors are still showing thumbnails? How come then everything is black and white? Oh, it's a filter above that. Yeah, but if I look at the edit window, I don't see that filter. It doesn't show up on the second video track. Oh, so I don't need to have an adjustment layer like in Premiere. I don't need to have a filter like in Avid. So I can actually within color make the entire show black and white, or the entire show is going to be not just black and white, it's going to be brighter. How? Like so, brighter. Oh, okay. And if I maybe push some blue, add some blue to it, make it cold. There we go, blue. Because the black and white, the saturation is down. So if I push the saturation back, now I can make adjustments to the blue, more blue, less blue. Ah, got it. So as long as the saturation is 0, there's not much color you can play with. So keep that in mind. And if your saturation is all the way up, you can push the blue. It's all very bluish. Resetting the whole thing or deleting that node, it gives you back into, or gets you back into the clip. And now you can adjust individually. So I covered the things that we talked about. We talked about the concept of making adjustments to a clip using the nodes. We talked about a single angle, color grading a single angle, and we checked it in a group. And we also talked about and demonstrated how you can grade the entire show. Clearly, this is not the only thing that you can do, but I hope that I gave you a feel how simple it could be done as long as you follow certain protocols. Anyways, if you had a good time, please let us know. This was specifically dealing with the topics that I addressed. My name is Tibor. If you like this, please let people know. If you want to follow us, please follow us. We are Future Media Concept, and we are pretty much done. Guys, go in peace. The show is over. We are FMC. You can find us anywhere on the internet. Keep it up, and thank you again.